Hello folks, Wednesday, and that means it's time for After Hours Woodworking. I'm your host, Chad Stanton, and on this show, it's a little bit different from the Monday show if you watch, and it's different from the Friday show. Yes, on this show, what I do is I tell you a little bit what I've got going on in my shop as a professional woodworker. I also will answer your viewer emails, try to make you better woodworkers, and of course, then sometimes I like to throw in tool suggestions for you to possibly have or don't have in your tool collection, a segment I like to call Should You Own It? Okay, so let's get right into it. Honestly, gotta say, this week I wanted to get more done. I've been working on my new shop. I've pretty much eliminated most of my work except for a small handful of customers because I realized getting that shop done is my priority. It's too hard for me to work some here and then work over there, and I've got stuff all over the place. So this week I don't have any photos for you because I didn't get as much done as I wanted, but I got the first row of plywood for the inside of the walls covering the insulation. First row is done. It's 10 foot high though, so I got a couple more rows to go. But since I have the first row done, that allows me to put my outlets in. I'm putting my outlets about 40 inches up from the ground. I think it's closer to 44 inches up. That way, why bend down to plug in? All my machines are going to be on benches right there. So I got the outlet boxes cut in, and I'm running wire to it now. But I still got a lot of electrical to do. I want to put some outside lights on it. I want to put timers on those outside lights. I got to cut the concrete because I want to put an outlet right in the middle where my table saw will be. So, yeah, and then I got to, work on power for the lights up there. So I've got a lot of electrical to do, but that's okay. I like doing electrical. I always actually wanted to be an electrician before I was a woodworker. If I couldn't be a woodworker, that's what I do, electrician. Anyhow, also this week, I wasn't able to see Dennis and Les. Usually I go there on Thursdays. Well, talk about bad luck. Les is back in the hospital again. He's having a little bit of trouble. And he's doing okay. He'll be home shortly, but until then, he's there in the hospital and giving everyone a hard time. Go get him, Les. And also, too, Dennis wound up in the hospital this week. I was just over there on Monday helping him. He's building a workbench for his shop. He has typically a pretty small shop, but at any rate, he's making himself a new workbench for it. And I was over there Monday to help him turn it upside down and stuff. And then by Monday night, he wound up in the hospital. He had a little problem with his heart. But he's home. He was home the next day. He's doing well too, but just meant both of them had to take it easy. Couldn't get over there and do any woodworking. So, at any rate, you guys, miss you, love you. Can't wait till you're feeling good again. Also, though, this week, so once a year, the neighboring town, and when I mean neighboring, connected, the neighboring town, Maumee, has a big festival, a summertime festival. And so my brother is volunteered, and he's made it a part to, on Saturday, highlight the local bands. So he reaches out to the different local bands and says, if you have originals, we want you. And so he has it all lined up. So he's encouraging, which I think is cool, because I think the show I do on Monday helps encourage woodworkers of all levels to do their thing, and my brother locally is encouraging musicians at all levels to come out and do their thing. So it's a pretty cool thing. It goes all day, and he's got two buddies that come into town for this festival because it's so fun. Renee Rodriguez comes in, and Don Gormley comes in. And Don is actually emceeing. He's the host to introduce all the bands. Crazy thing is, both of these guys live on the other side of the United States. Don's coming in from New York. Renee came in from L.A. Two great guys. So, of course, when they're in town, I can't get much work done because I got to go over and see them. They're only here for the weekend. So, yeah, I haven't done a whole lot this week. A little embarrassed. But that doesn't mean it's going to stop the show, because enough about me jibber-jabbering. Let's get to some viewer email questions. Now, I forgot to bring this up last week. Last week, Jeff Burton wrote in. He had some questions about finish and boiled linseed oil and so on. And I forgot a very important lesson that I need to share with you guys. So, when you are working with solvents, oil-based of any sort, whether it's your stain or, in my case, it was boiled linseed oil, they tell you to either air the rags out completely so that they can dry, or to dispose of them in a metal-contained lid, because they can spontaneously combust. Now, I took shop class way back, like automotive shop class back, I think, in 9th or 10th grade, and I've always heard that. And I used to be a mechanic right out of high school, and that was always the thing. The rags can spontaneously combust. I never saw it happen, never heard anyone say it would happen. And, a few years back, I was building a project. I covered it with boiled linseed oil, wiped it down when it was done, and I threw the rags in the garbage can. Now, I had a metal garbage can, and typically I keep that garbage can underneath my bench, but I was lazy. I left it right in the middle of the shop. And that was probably like 2 in the afternoon. Well, by like 3:30 in the morning, I hear the alarm go off on my shop. And so I get up, it's winter time, I just got pajamas on, and I go running outside with my hands all clenched up, thinking, I caught someone in the act. I come running out here, and the door's not open, so I run to the back, because some of these guys are crafty. They'll take like sawzalls, and they'll cut through back walls and come in, So I ran around the back, and I realized, nothing had happened. And my wife's so funny. She's cute. She's this short little gal. And she comes outside with my grandfather's old 5-iron golf club. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I came out here to protect you. You know what? She probably could have done a pretty good job, too, I think. Yeah, I'm not putting that past her. Love you, dear. But anyhow, what I figured happened was I figured one of the boards I had leaning against the wall fell over, and the motion detector picked it up and, set off the alarm. So she gets me my keys, and I crack the door open, and whoosh, I am met with a wall of smoke. And across the shop, I could see my garbage can was on fire, and the flames were almost up to the rafters here. And I kind of freaked out. Luckily, I had a fire extinguisher right there by the door. Was able to put it out. No damage was done. None. Really, really lucky. But those rags, it took that long. It took over 12 hours, but they did spontaneously combust. So, word to the wise, don't learn like I did. So, okay, let's see. Okay, so Roy Beckner. Roy is going to be building a maple table, and I love working with maple. And I wasn't sure if Roy's going to stain it or not, but that came up with a question as far as how do you prevent maple from splotching? So if you're not familiar with splotching, splotching happens on a couple of different woods: maple, pine, really bad, and cherry. And so what happens is the stain absorbs at different rates on the wood. And so some areas will look darker than an area right next to it. And it literally looks like splotching. It sometimes looks like you spilled something on it. That is the nature of the beast. But there are some things you can do to curb that. And one of the things that, because I've experienced it myself many, many times, and you can hear things like preconditioners. You can buy a product called a preconditioner. Look, don't waste your money. If you want to do a preconditioner, you can make one yourself. Essentially, what a preconditioner does is you put this liquid on, you're supposed to wait like I think 20 minutes because part of it is evaporating off, and then you can apply your stain. Well, what it's doing is it's essentially like mineral spirits. You're putting that on, and the mineral spirits is filling up the pores, and then you have to wait because some pores are deeper than other pores. And so you have to wait, and the idea is that you're trying to get them to evaporate all at the same level. All right? And then you can put your stain on, and then the stain will evenly penetrate down in it. Folks, I'm here to tell you, it does not work for me. Okay? Someone's going to write in and say, yeah, it works great for me, Chad. Wonderful. Love you for that. Doesn't work for me. So what I typically do is I will put like shellac on. I put shellac on, let that dry. You can sand that off. And when I say sand it off, I mean I could take it off. I don't want to get deep into the wood because I want the shellac to fill up those pores. But I want to take it off the very first surface level of the wood so I can apply my stain and get the true color. When you use the preconditioners or if you use the mineral spirits, you put your stain on, it's not going to be the same color because the stain is diluted by the preconditioner or the mineral spirits. So shellac does a nice way of sealing that. Then what I typically do is I'll use a gel coat stain on top of it. A gel coat stain doesn't penetrate as deep as a penetrating stain. And so I try to go with the gel coat stain. Now, I've recently been working with a product from Crystal-Lac, and their stains are very different, very unique, and the ones that I've used so far I've been very happy with because I can build up on how dark I want that stain color, where I can't typically get that out of oil-based stains. We've talked about that before. So I reached out to David Shepard over there at Crystal-Lac. I said, how do you guys prevent the splotching on maple? Very similar thing. They have an amber tone sanding sealer that they put on. He said, put that on, lightly sand it, boom, put the stain on. And he believes that their stain that they have, which is which is water-based, prevents some of that splotching. I haven't worked with it on that volume yet to confirm that, but I do like the fact that their product is water-based, easy to clean up. Great, so that's how you guys can help prevent splotching on those woods. So thank you, Roy. Let's see, next question. Ronald Wesanga. Ronald, I believe, is over there in Kenya. I think that's you. And he's getting into woodworking, and he had questions about hand planes and how to sharpen the blades and how sharp is sharp enough. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you probably most people don't do. All right, so if you've got a book or watched another video and someone tells you to do it another way, fine, that's great. Let me say there's certain things that are very personal. Your favorite power tool? Personal. Some people love the bandsaw. Some people love the table saw. Some people are router table. We covered that before. Sharpening is the same thing. Some people love to do it with machines. Some do it with jigs. Some do it by hand. Everybody's got a system. So what I tell you may not work for you, but it works for me. So here's what I do, Ronald. So I have my Wood River hand plane here, disassembled. Really love that hand plane too, by the way. I'm not joking. Had my doubts when I first got it, but really like it. So I got the blade out. So here's how I like to sharpen. Now most people will tell you that you want the whatever sharpening stone you're using or sandpaper or whatever it is, they keep it lower down. And what you would do is you try to hold the blade onto your stone, and you want to lock the blade with your wrist, and you want to keep your body all straight, and then with your legs you move your body forward, all in a motion. You don't want to use your arm like this, like you're sawing. You want your whole body. Okay, I did that for years and years, and it works great. But then I started doing something new. So I travel a fair amount, and I haven't seen this in the States this cheap. This is these diamond stones that you can get, and I pick them up at these little roadside vendors overseas, and they're mostly made for like your kitchen knives, so they're not high quality, but nonetheless, they're diamond stones. And this here is a fine grit. So you can do this with whatever stone you're using, all right? A ceramic stone or one of those water stones, whatever you want to do. So what I do is instead of going the width going across the stone like this, I'll have it go with the stone, all right? The reason being is if I'm pushing it across any kind of sharpening surface, a stone this way, if you magnified it, it would look like little teeth then. But if you're going with it, if you're going across this blade here, well, any kind of grooves will be going the same direction as is that leading edge. So under any magnification, I wouldn't have those grooves, all right? That's just me. The other thing I do, too, is I don't place it down on the bench. I hold it up here closer to my eyes so I can see it. So I can see where the bevel now becomes flat on the stone. Then the last thing is I don't move the stone back and forth. I don't move the blade back and forth. I move the stone. And that helps me see and feel that I'm keeping that contact of the bevel flat on that stone at all times. All right? So that's how I sharpen the bevel side. I don't do a back bevel or micro bevel or anything like that. I don't do any hollow grinding. This is how I sharpen. All right? Now I have to do the back edge too. So what I'll do in that case then is you really want the back of it as flat as possible. But what I like to do is I'll put a small piece of paper just on the back side of this. So I'm just getting a little bit of a lean to it. All right, just a little bit lean. And again, I go back and forth. And what you want to look for is you want to look right where those two angles are coming together, right at the point. And if you see any light reflecting off the point, not off the bevel or the back, right at the apex or the point, if you see any light on it, that means you have a flat spot. You should have no light reflecting off it, okay? So if you see light right at the tip, you got a flat spot. And go back to those steps. Now, for razor sharp, I have a strop, which is just a piece of leather, and I have it glued to some plywood. And then you can get a compound. A compound's real fine powder compound, and then I pull it straight down and lift up, put it back on, feel so that bevel's making contact, and pull it all the way down. And I'll do that about 10 times. Okay. Now you'll notice it's kind of angled. I have it kind of skewed because I can't pull it straight. The strop isn't wide enough. The blade is wider, so I have to skew it and pull it. And you can do the same for the back side. Okay, so now I think I got it sharp. How do I test it? Well, I used to do the old trick of, shaving hair off my arm, which this is doing. And that was how I always knew it was sharp enough. But I like sharpening so much. I'll sharpen my chisels. I'll sharpen my hand planes. I love sharpening my draw knives. And when I keep testing it, I'm running out of hair. And I've literally shaved so much that I've shaved a thin layer of skin off, and you would later see like the blood coming up through the pores of my skin, and my arm will be all bloody. And my wife doesn't like that. So Dennis told me another trick, and here's how you can tell if it's really sharp. So take a piece of wood, like end grain of the wood, not going with the grain, the end grain, and get a soft wood like pine, because you have to have really sharp tools to cut pine, otherwise it crushes soft wood. And then what you want to do is push it across, and you're trying to make shavings. You want to make shavings off of the end grain. If you can get shavings off of that, then you have a sharp blade. Yeah, I'm producing a curl on that one. So that's how you know. So hopefully that helps you there, Ronald, how to get your blades really sharp. And that's when you know sharp is sharp enough. All right, let's see. So there was a question too on, gosh, I don't have a prop for this. A question for doing miters. If you're doing, say, like a picture frame of some sort, this kind of came from the duck. We were talking online. And he wanted to know how to reinforce a mitered corner. Now, again, I'm not prepared for this one, but let's say that this is cut and it's a miter, and so I put the two pieces together. There is, you can take a handsaw and cut down into this, and then the kerf, the thickness of that blade. You can take some shims or some veneer and put glue and put that in there, and so now it becomes a spline, and it really makes that corner a lot stronger. And you know, and I did a video a couple years back about how to glue and clamp up mitered corners, and it's a cool little trick. So I'm going to put that in the link below. I think you'll like it. It's an older one, but nonetheless, the tip is really valuable. So I'll put that link in the bottom. All right, so that's it for email questions. And so now let's move on to, should you own it? Yes, this is a product review, or no, it's not a product review. It's a product suggestion. I don't call it a tool review simply because I don't have enough of the same type of tools from different brands to really give you guys a good comparison of. So this is just strictly a suggestion. And I have some rigid tools here. Now I got to say, some of the rigid tools are awesome. And one of the cool things about rigid tools is they have a lifetime warranty on their products. And I've had stuff that I bought used that was rigid. My vacuum. Vacuum is awesome. I probably used that thing for 10 or 12 years. One day it just burned up, and they gave me another one, no questions asked, and the new one's even nicer. So some are cool, but there are a few products sometimes that every company makes that you know, don't always work with me. And so what I have here is a drill and an impact. And this is really the lesson here. I'm not picking on rigid. What I'm trying to say is there is a difference between these two. And I don't want to say get in arguments, but I have different thoughts on it than most. Because a lot of these impacts, you know, it has like a hex head in it. So it's like a locking bit that goes in it. And they're now making drill bits that have that same, because it's kind of like a quick release. And people are using their impacts for drills. You have to be careful with that. If you have the right bit, you're fine. But remember, a drill is a constant spinning, where the impact is just that. It's like a jackhammer. It's constantly pounding as it spins. And I have seen on job sites some carpenters have put drill bits in it, and one guy used a paddle bit, a spade bit, put it in there, and he's drilling through wood, and sure enough, when it starts to hit a knot, it doesn't drill anymore. It starts to do that pounding, and it shattered that paddle bit, and it flew across the room like shrapnel. Luckily, no one got hurt. These things have tremendous power, and so I always suggest drilling holes is a drill, and if you're trying to drive in screws or bolts, nuts, use an impact. All right. Now, as far as the rigid one goes, I don't like the rigid impact. I thought I would love it because it has a tremendous amount of torque. I don't like it because it has too much torque. Yeah, Yeah, like on some of my other impacts, I can kind of tell when the screw is deep enough or tight enough because the impacting kind of slows down. This thing, it has so much torque, I wind up just shredding the heads on these screws. I snap them right off. They go in too deep and bang, I just snap the heads right off. Then that's frustrating because you got to dig that stupid screw out. So yeah, I don't like the rigid impact. As far as the drill goes, well, some of the features on it that are cool, like the light, and I liked where the light's placed. I find that silly light, because every time you just kind of touch it, there's two places the light goes on, this button or with the trigger, and every time you do that, it's actually slowly draining the battery. I had a buddy who had a rigid that was a lower grade model that didn't have the light, and the battery lasted longer on it, you know, so there's that. And on this one, I don't know if it's just a flaw with my drill, but the battery comes loose. So you can be in something, drilling something, and the battery backs off just enough that it stops, you know. So, I don't know, that just might be this one here. But regardless, the lesson to this episode is know the difference between your drill and impact. Use the right tool for the right job so that we have safe viewers for next week. Okay, and speaking of next week, if you have a question or would like to be on the show, go ahead and email me at woodchoppintime@gmail.com. I will answer your email questions, or if you want your project shown on Monday's show where we spotlight you and what you're making, go ahead and email it there at woodchoppintime@gmail.com. As always, please like and subscribe. Leave your comments below. Oh, question of the week. Did I have question of the week? Shoot, I didn't. See, I came totally unprepared this week. No question of the week. But anyhow, stay tuned. As always, we'll have more videos for you. We want you to become better woodworkers. There's no shame in not knowing. This is the place to come for the answers. Until next week, keep on dancing.